We look at our calendar every single day. We plan our entire lives around it, and we just assume it's this pillar of scientific precision. But what if I told you it's actually, well, kind of a mess? A patchwork of ego, mythology, and some really questionable math. So let's start with a really simple question that kind of blows the whole thing wide open. If decim is the Latin root for 10, why on earth is December the 12th month? The answer to that unravels this surprisingly messy and totally fascinating history of the calendar we all take for granted. And that brings us right into our first section. We're going to deconstruct the Gregorian calendar. And what you'll see is that this thing we think of as a work of science is really more of a historical Frankenstein's monster. It's been cobbled together over centuries with pieces that don't always, fit. Okay, check this out. September, October, November, December. Their names literally mean the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th months. But there are 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Why? Simple. The original Roman calendar didn't start in January. It started in March. And its evolution was wild. I mean, the very first Roman year was only 304 days long. That left more than 60 days in the winter just unaccounted for. They didn't even have names. When they finally added January and February, for a while, they were just considered this weird holiday period that was literally outside the calendar. So, along comes Julius Caesar. He overhauls the whole system, and, while he's at it, he decides he deserves a permanent spot. So he takes the month Quintilis and renames it July after himself. A total ego move, for sure, but it didn't stop with him. Right, so his successor, Emperor Augustus, sees that July has 31 days. And he says, hey, I'm just as great as Julius. I want my own month, and it better have 31 days, too. So the next month, Sextilis, becomes August. Problem was, it only had 30 days, and that just wasn't going to fly for an emperor. So where do you get an extra day? You steal it, of course. They just plucked a day right out of February and slapped it onto August to soothe the emperor's ego. And that right there is why poor February is the shortest month of the year. It's all because of a little imperial one-upsmanship. And the inconsistencies just keep piling up. I mean, the whole BC/AD system is anchored to the birth of Jesus, but even religious scholars agree the date is off by 4 to 6 years. The new year starts on a totally arbitrary day, and a bunch of our months are just named after Roman gods. It's not science, it's a hodgepodge. Okay, now let's completely switch gears. We're going to leave that system of errors behind and look at one that was built from the ground up on precise astronomical observation, the Hindu Panchang. This is a total philosophy shift, from arbitrary human rules to the rhythm of the cosmos. The absolute core of the Panchang is a unit called the Tithi, and this is so important. A Tithi is not a 24-hour day. It's not about the Earth spinning. It's a pure unit of measurement based on the moon's relationship to the sun. It's all about that cosmic dance between them. And here's the beautiful math behind it. A full 360-degree cycle of the moon relative to the sun is divided into 30 of these Tithis. That means each Tithi represents a perfect 12-degree progression. No guesswork, no ego, it's just pure orbital mechanics. And unlike the Gregorian calendar's random mix of gods, emperors, and numbers, the Hindu months have this really elegant scientific logic to their names. Each month is named after the Nakshatra, the most prominent star or constellation that the full moon is near during that time. So in the month of Posha, you know to look for the full moon near the Pushya star. It's like a star map built right into the calendar. Okay, so if this calendar is so precise and scientific, it brings up a question I bet you're thinking. Why do festivals like Diwali seem to bounce all over the place in our calendar every year? Well, the answer is because the Panchang is solving a really tricky luni-solar puzzle. See, it's actually tracking two different cosmic clocks at the exact same time. You've got the lunar year, which is about 354 days long following the moon. And then you have the solar year, which is about 365 days long following the Earth's trip around the sun. And here's the kicker. Those two clocks do not tick at the same speed. Every single year, the lunar calendar falls behind the solar calendar by about 11 days. Now, if you didn't correct for that, pretty soon you'd have harvest festivals happening in the dead of winter. So how does this system solve this constant drift? It has this absolutely brilliant self-correcting feature called the Adhik Mas. After 2 or 3 years, that 11-day gap adds up to roughly a full month. So the calendar just inserts an entire extra month. This brings the lunar festivals and the solar seasons perfectly back into alignment. It's like a built-in cosmic reset button. And the exception that proves the rule is the festival Makar Sankranti. It's one of the very few Hindu festivals that's purely solar. It marks the sun's movement into a new zodiac sign. And because it's solar, it lines up perfectly with our solar Gregorian calendar, falling on January 14th or 15th every single year. All right, for our last section, here's a final, really surprising twist. We've seen how different these two calendar systems are, right? But there is one fundamental piece of our daily lives where they share this incredibly deep and almost completely overlooked common ancestor. Have you ever actually stopped and thought, where did the 7-day week come from? I mean, it's everywhere, it feels like it's always been there. But if you go looking for it in foundational Western texts like the Bible, you won't find it. So where did this idea come from? We'll get this. The earliest, clear, written source we have for it is an ancient Indian text on astronomy called the Surya Siddhanta. It lays out the whole system, a 7-day week with each day linked to one of the 7 celestial bodies you can see with the naked eye. And our English names are basically direct translations. Sunday is the sun's day, Monday is the moon's day, Saturday is Saturn's day. The system we use all over the world today has its roots in this ancient cosmic clock. This kind of hidden connection really makes you question the histories we're taught. And it goes beyond just calendars. Take Professor C.K. Raju, who issued this wild challenge, offering money to anyone who can prove that the man we call Pythagoras, this cornerstone of Western math, even existed as we're told he did. It's a powerful reminder to always dig a little deeper than the textbook story. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If the week we all use comes from ancient Indian astronomy, and our calendar's flaws come from imperial egos, what other amazing scientific knowledge might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us inside traditions we've maybe dismissed as just culture? It's a pretty cool thought. Thanks so much for watching.